Well, welcome to another edition of OnPoint Live. Hi, everybody. I'm Vince Ferragamo, former Los Angeles Rams quarterback. Alongside me is 20-year NFL legend and Hall of Famer Jackie Slater. And Jackie, we are at week 9 of the NFL regular season. This has been ups and downs for so many teams. And what a great weekend last weekend.
It certainly was.
So many great games.
Some great games.
Every game seems to be close or a blowout.
They're getting closer and closer. The teams are, they're rounding into shape now. It always took about this much time. That's why we played 6 preseason games back in the day. It always took about this much time before people start hitting on all cylinders, and that's what we're seeing now.
We're seeing a lot of points being scored too, Jackie, and you know what? That Rams game, the Packers game, that was a toss-up. We didn't know how are the Rams going to come and how are they going to travel to Green Bay. Is Matt Stafford going to be playing, or is he going to be sidelined? What's going on? Is day-to-day?
We had a lot of questions. And you know, that game prompted a lot more questions, and we got to get some answers to some of these things. Vince, you know that Hall of Famer Sam Farmer.
LA Times.
LA Times. Yeah. He posted this during the game. He said, at the moment, Green Bay's 1 touchdown lead looks like the tallest peak east of the Mississippi. East of the Mississippi, Vince.
Man, that's hard.
That's like saying, to me, when I read that, that's like saying, this team is so bad, they don't have a snowball chance in Haiti of coming back and beat the Packers. And you and I look at the Packers as a middle-of-the-road team right now.
Yeah.
So how can the Rams go from us seeing some beautiful work by this team, young players early in the season, to having a Hall of Fame columnist write something like that?
I just happen to think it boils down, Jackie, to the depth that you have in personnel, the ability of your players. And I think Green Bay has been planning on, Aaron Rodgers' departure, and they've been building the team a little. They got Jordan Love. They're trying to get Matt LaFleur and him on the same page. I saw one play they used, Jackie, and I have to agree with Sam Farmer. When you run fake screen right, screen left, wide middle, wide open, I said, that got him off the snide because he hadn't thrown a pass deeper than 20 yards, I think, the whole game. I was saying, what are they waiting for him to throw the ball? Stretch the field. You have to stretch the field deep so you can throw underneath. And if you want to throw short, then back them up. Or run the ball. And, I think they had a great combination. The Rams were sporadic.
Vince.
They were just sporadic.
Vince, listen, did you have any confidence in the Rams offense while watching the Rams lose to the Packers? was there a stretch there with the quarterback, with the line, with the backs, where you said, okay, we got a chance here?
No, I didn't really.
Come on, Vince, at some point in time.
Well, I think it boils down to making the plays, Jackie, and then making the big plays and turning the ball over. But, I think the Rams are trying to make the best of what they have. We saw some strides that they made during the preseason and early in the season. They've been competitive. But
very
this game, so. It just seemed, as the game wore on, it just got to be more and more lopsided with the other teams.
It got worse and worse. Went along.
Well, Jackie,
Vince, listen. Yeah. Now, and you should be more familiar with this than anybody. If you have a 35-year-old quarterback, now don't get me wrong, I want Matthew Stafford on my team right now. There's the Matthew Stafford that when he's playing his best football, I'll take him on into the future.
Yes.
I don't have any problem with him. But when you got a 35-year-old quarterback, shouldn't you be more prepared at the backup quarterback spot than perhaps the Rams were just this past week against the Green Bay Packers?
I think it's a good point because I thought we saw that in preseason during the draft, Jackie. And when they went to the draft, they went to Stetson Bennett in the 4th round. I thought he was a good find, and I thought he's got that ability to spark the team.
And he got a lot of reps in the preseason.
He was doing pretty well, but now we haven't seen one iota of the young kid. So I don't know where he is in the lineup and what's happening in his personal life, but he's been sidelined, been off the team for 8 weeks now, Jackie. They didn't start the season. So Brett Rippon has been playing. I think he's got some skills, but it's a team effort. You have to have great line play. You got to have a strong running, especially for a young quarterback.
Yeah.
If you don't have a running game for a young quarterback, his inexperience is going to be the
And with that ball slipping out of his hands this past week, he maybe should have put the rubber glove on to start the game. You know, I probably would have done something like that.
Well, that's Kenny Pickett, from Pittsburgh. I don't know why he's wearing those gloves, Jackie. He doesn't need to wear gloves. I mean, he may be more effective without the gloves.
Well,
Kenny, take the gloves off.
Rippin of the Rams lost the ball like that this past week.
Well, take the gloves off.
And then he went to the gloves. He went to the gloves like that.
Right.
Now, Vince, one other thing here.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, I'm a big fan of Samuel L. Jackson. And he's right here in Los Angeles. And he was watching the Ram-Packer game, and he posted a quote.
Okay.
He said, "At what point do we start talking Ram coaching conversation?" At what point? He's implying, he's sitting there watching the game.
Sean McVay's on the hot seat.
That's exactly what he implied.
Wow. Well, this is my take on it, Jackie. I think that given what the Rams have in personnel, I think Sean McVay, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I think he's got the most of what he's got. I mean, I don't think the problem is in the coaching. I think the problem with the Rams is in their scouting department and getting players, go find some good players out there or draft them and get them to make a difference when you come.
And I want to echo your sentiment there because, Sean McVay over the last few years has been one of the most productive coaches if you look at it in the history of the National Football League with what he has gotten accomplished at such a young age. And we all watched the transformation of this football team this past offseason, how they got their salary cap down. They got rid of a lot of guys, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd. They got rid of all these Greg Gaines. They let them all leave, all quality players that contributed to a Super Bowl championship. They let them all walk out the door. And why did they do that? They did that so that they could get their cap numbers down and so that they could start building over toward the next 2 or 3 years, hopefully, towards another Super Bowl championship. Now, one piece that had to be in place, one central piece that had to be in place was the signing of Sean McVay. If they don't bring Sean McVay back, we don't see the quality of football that we saw the first month of this season with these young players. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. They're too young. They haven't figured it out.
Right.
It's taking great coaching, consistent technical reminders to put these kids in a position to be as successful as they are. And for that reason, for Sean McVay and his staff's ability to do that, that is the reason why I would disagree with anyone who says it's time to have a coaching conversation for the Rams.
And I see teams platooning certain players, Jackie, on defense, especially defensive line. The 49ers do it a lot. They take Nick Bosa out of the game, and they are reputable. They'll come out and they'll be disruptive. But the difference in the pass rush without Aaron Donald is startling for the Rams. That, to me, says, where's the rest of the team? Is there anybody else on the Rams defensive line that can put pressure on the quarterback?
Of course, they got a couple of guys. Byron Young,
all right.
Michael Horch. Both of these guys have got some decent numbers compared to some of the sack leaders around the league. They can put pressure on the quarterback individually, but not like Aaron Donald. And one of the things that, Vince, you and I have known this, we talked about this, we've known this for a very, very long time. Pass rush, yeah, you can have unique individuals. And I think the 49ers have loaded up with some unique individuals over there, certainly bringing Chase Young and adding them to the rest of those guys they have. Oh, they have some unique individuals that can beat you one-on-one. But pass rush is also a combination of pass rushes by the 4 guys or the 5 guys in unison. So when you look at what Aaron Donald is having to deal with, he has no Greg Gaines, he has no Leonard Floyd, he has no Von Miller, all of whom are very, very intimately acquainted with the different routes and the patterns that you use to get to the quarterback, to free one another up. And so I think that when I see Aaron Donald standing on the sideline, and maybe it's a pass rushing situation, I view it 2 ways. I view it as either they're letting him come out because they don't want him to get double teamed. They're going to put him back in later where he can have some isolation situations, or they're trying to do, or they're spelling him, or they're trying to develop their schematic pass rushes. Schematic pass rushes involve 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, sometimes 2 linebackers. So these people have to work in unison to put pressure on the quarterback, and I think that's one of the things that they're trying to develop in addition to resting Aaron when he's over on the sideline.
Okay, well, let's move to our crosstown team, Jackie, with the Chargers. And you know what? They are on the bubble, it seems like. Brandon Staley, despite him being a defensive-minded coach, they're ranked like 31st or 32nd in total defense.
Been a little disappointed.
They've got a tough game Monday night, okay, against the Jets, because the Jets have one of the top-rated defenses, Jackie. And so let's see what happens, but they really have to step up. I've kind of been reluctant because I want to think that they're a good team, but I haven't really seen them put the whole thing together yet.
Well, their team, I think, is a good team. When they're there, healthy, and everybody's playing. Mm-hmm. First thing I'm thinking about is Corey Linsley, the starting center, who they brought over, arguably the best center in all of pro football. He's had a problem with his heart, so he hasn't been able to practice or play or communicate, which is probably one of his number one strengths with that offensive line. And then we had Austin Eckler out with a problem. He came to.
He's back now.
He's back now, but he was out with an issue and everything. And then we've seen them lose Big Mike Williams. So they've had some injuries, some kind of startling things here and there, but they still have Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett and Josh Palmer and they brought over Murray and Kendricks, the two really good linebackers. Derwin James is still there. So you wonder, why is it that they're, giving up 390 yards a game in the 31st total defense in the league?
297 against pass.
297 yards a game, and the last team against the pass, like you just said. You wonder about that.
Well, I'll tell you
when they have a defensive coach, as their head coach.
But the pass, to be productive, as an offense, you have to get the protection. And the teams that have the worst time is when they face defenses that put a lot of heat on the quarterback. That's why we see Philadelphia so good. We see Baltimore is playing well. The Cleveland's playing good. Pittsburgh with T.J. Watt. I mean, these guys put heat. The 49ers, they put heat on the quarterback.
Put heat on the quarterback.
And I don't think the Chargers are putting enough pressure on their opposing quarterback.
Well, it's funny that you would say that, because if you look at the numbers, if you look at the names, you hear Khalil Mack. And when you hear Khalil Mack, and you look at the number of sacks he had a month ago in one game, he had 6 sacks.
That's what they should do every week.
He had 6 sacks in one game, but here we are at the midway point, and he has a total of 7 sacks. And then you look at Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa is one of the best paid defensive ends in all of pro football. He's been up and down.
Best paid. But
yes.
I got to get a guy in there that's going to be disruptive.
Yeah, and he's had his days as a disruptive pass rusher.
Have we seen it lately?
He just is not having them at this current time.
Well, let's go.
He's only got 4 sacks. So your top 2 guys there combined with 11 sacks there. And when you think about it, that's maybe over 3 weeks. We played 8 games. So what happened the other 5 weeks? I think this is a critical telltale sign of some of their problems on defense, that these 2 guys and the numbers that they're putting up week in and week out and the pressure they're putting up week in and week out is really not good enough.
Well, it's a pass-happy league, Jackie, and if you don't have a pass rush, you're not going to bode well. You're not going to be a contending team,
no.
I'm telling you, in the NFL right now. So, and they talk, I hear a lot of announcers talking about, Philadelphia, how bad they are in the secondary. There's not a lot of teams just going down the field throwing the ball against them, because they're pass rush with Riddick, Hassan Riddick, and you got Fletcher Cox.
Right.
You got the young kid now from Georgia.
Yeah.
They put heat on the quarterback.
They put heat on the quarterback. They can beat you individually and be in that quarterback's face. And
that's what it takes.
That's exactly what it takes, Vince. Exactly what it takes.
The other NFL games that we saw so many good games this weekend, Jackie, but, the one game that was played in Germany, was the Kansas City Chiefs played the Miami Dolphins, and that game was the Chiefs were out to a 21-point lead, Jackie. They came back. The Dolphins were starting to march back, but Tyreek Hill they ripped the ball away from Tyreek, and they lateraled the ball back, and the defense scored a defensive touchdown in that one play, and that was a little bit of say, hey, Tyreek, you're on the wrong team. You should still be with us here at the Chiefs. But you know what, Jackie? I mean, those two teams are pretty stacked up. I mean, I don't know, but the Chiefs continue to win, throwing the ball to Travis Kelce, okay? But they don't really have a standout wide receiver
that can go deep.
That is a game breaker. And so can they get to the Super Bowl without that star wide receiver?
I don't know, Vince. I don't know that they can, especially in light of the fact that Miami showed everybody a blueprint for slowing down Kansas City. And what did they do? That you mentioned the tight end.
Yeah,
they double covered him. They made him the second and third option for Patrick Mahomes. And when he had to go to somewhere else, this was when all of a sudden he was scrambling around, running around. The pressure was getting to him, throwing the ball away. And so I think there's a blueprint that's been set for beating Kansas City, especially in light of the fact that they don't have Tyreek Hill, somebody that can take the top off the coverage. And they're not going to let this guy, Travis Kelce, just beat him underneath. Take him out, force some of the other receivers that you haven't heard much about to make plays down the field. That's the way I see it.
You're right. Sean Payton saw it, too, with the Broncos when they played him 2 weeks ago, Jackie. They took Kelce away. They took Travis Kelce away. They said, let them do something that they're not really good at, which the Chiefs are pretty good at everything. But, I mean, if they're going to take their chance, they're going to try to stop the strongest weapon on the team and then let them throw to somebody else who's not quite as productive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about the AFC West. There's so many good teams in the AFC West, Jackie, but the big story last week was the firing of Josh McDaniels with the Raiders and Raider Nation. They were a little upset maybe, but I think it was a blessing in disguise because I'm telling you, Antonio Pierce, who took over this job, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a different reaction by the team.
It was a different persona.
It was totally different, Jackie. They went back to old school Raider football.
They did.
And they did it. They did it on the ground. Josh, the running back was great. I mean, he had a great game. So, they pretty much controlled that game.
They pretty much controlled it from start to finish. And, when I think about, we've seen coach changes in the middle of the season. Many of them don't work out well. They because the people are in such disarray. But we have also been part of a team. I mean, I remember when George Allen was released from the Rams and Ray Malavasi took over. That year, we went to the NFC Championship game, and the following year, we went to the Super Bowl. So I think what had to take place is that you had to have an owner who has the wisdom to have gathered the information, to observe the situation, and to have put his foot down and made a decision that the best thing moving forward was to get to get rid of the coach and the general manager that was in place. Now, when he did that, the statement that he made to you and me as a quarterback and as an offensive tackle is that, hey, we are about the business of winning football games here. We are not about the business of all the confusion, all the different talk that's going on. We're about the business of producing on the football field. And we're going to do everything we can to get that done. So when Mr. Davis decided to get rid of the general manager and the coach, he made a statement to every single player on his team, regardless of their contractual situation. And that was, you will play to win games or you will not be here. You will play to win games or you will not be here. And that sometimes emboldens and energizes guys. Some of those guys are sitting there thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be out of here next year. I'm going to free agent. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, now they better start thinking, I'm going to play my best football for the remainder of the season for the Raiders. Otherwise, I might not be here. And so it was a grand statement to make. And, it was something that apparently, from listening to some of the other rumors, that apparently that had to be done. And as he made that decision, this team responded the way you want to see it happen. His
personality really showed up, Jackie, I think, because...
Who you mean, Pierce?
Antonio Pierce.
Yes.
When he took over, he hadn't been in the NFL very long, Jackie. He'd just been the linebacker coach this year in the NFL. But he coached at Long Beach Poly, which is a local school here in the Southern California area. And Jackie, when he was coaching high school football, and his personas,
I remember when he was there.
They were winning a game. Okay, they were like 53-6 at halftime. He was so disgusted on his team that he made him run gassers because he said, "You're not playing the football the way I need to see you play it." okay, he made a strong statement, and he's carried the same belief forward. You don't change that kind of belief as a coach. They came back. They were late to start the third quarter in that high school game, and they came back, won the game 99-6 or something.
Wow.
But
so they kicked it up. They kicked it up a notch.
But it's so much the way you play, the excitement that you have when you play, and you play together as a team. Are we doing the right things skillfully? You know, are we sharp? Are we intelligent? Are we thinking about how we're supposed to?
Are we freeing our players up to be the physical, mental giants that we need them to be to win football games?
And what did he say in the locker room following the game, Jackie? He said, Raiders, okay.
Oh, yeah, he was pumped up.
I mean, they're pumped up.
And the guys
were loving it. That's the way you have to play the game.
And that locker room was, you could just see the jubilance in that locker room. Everybody was excited. You know, they were having them a smoke and all of that. Yeah. And you could just tell there was something different about that atmosphere. It really was.
Well, Jackie, okay, let's switch gears here and talk about one of the newcomers in the NFL this year and what he's meant. And I saw one of the great games played. There was two great games in my mind this weekend. And one was a Minnesota-Atlanta Falcons game down in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And they had Joshua Dobbs. This is remarkable what he was able to do, Jackie.
He
goes to Minnesota.
Almost unbelievable.
He doesn't know the name of the players. He doesn't know. He can't call them by their first name. He doesn't know who they are. They've never heard of cadence. He's never thrown a pass to one of his wide receivers.
Never practiced with them one day.
Yeah, I know. So, Jackie, do you know he was a 4.0 student? And his major?
What was it? What was his major?
His major, Jackie, is engineering. I mean, is aerodynamic
so he's a bright
engineering.
Kid. He's a bright kid.
I mean, Jackie, he was reciting stuff, and they asked him about that, and he says, well, you know what? It's like going, preparing for a test, and you're preparing for your foreign language test in Spanish, and the day before they change it to French. He's able to adjust.
Yes.
He's so intelligent. And he was talking to Kevin O'Connell the entire time by just reciting on the plane flight down there, Jackie. They're just going over plays in his own mind.
Concepts.
He hadn't had a chance to work them.
Concepts.
And he came from behind and won that game, and he threw the ball like he had been there for weeks.
The previous week, he started at quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and he won 2 weeks ago against what they play. They beat Patriots or somebody a couple of weeks prior to that.
Yes, they did. And he comes fresh to town, gets off a plane, goes meet with the coach, goes
midweek.
Go meet with the coordinator, never practices with them.
No.
And then when they put him in the game bench, before the game, he's on the sideline saying a cadence as loud as he can so the guys get used to hearing his voice.
And he wasn't He wasn't even a starter, wasn't slated to even play that game.
I know, the rookie got hurt.
I know.
I never saw anybody jump off sides.
No.
Do you know how difficult that would be for me, knowing that I got a speed rusher coming on me, to listen to a voice I haven't heard ever before, giving me a count to get off the lawn?
Let me say this to our viewers. Jimmy Johnson, who's a Hall of Fame coach, he said, what's the best quality I can have in an athlete? He said, intelligence. Because I can win with intelligent players. Okay, Jackie?
Absolutely.
This guy, this is what you want in a quarterback.
Yes.
We talked about Dobbs with the Cardinals. I don't know why they let him go, but
I'm
he's
assuming,
a good quarterback.
I assume they did that because they thought Kyler Murray was ready to come off the pup list.
But he's not Joshua Dobbs.
No, he's not Joshua Dobbs. How about him being also, Vince, in addition to all of what you just said? I saw a great deal of patience on his part in the pocket, trying to let routes develop and everything. And he hit some of those routes. He hit some of those routes. But he was a leading rusher for them as well.
But how did he know which plays to call?
Well, Vince, the first thing the commentators said that jumped out at me is that he recognized the coverage. When you're playing man coverage and everybody's got their back turned to you, running away from you, and you recognize that, the quicker you recognize that and the quicker you get into the secondary as a runner as a quarterback, that's when you get the pile of yards on. And he was recognizing that coverage and taking advantage of it when they had guys covered.
Instinctively, you just react quick. Yeah, there was no delay at all. And and one of the other great quarterbacks that we saw, and we've been talking about the young quarterbacks that were drafted this year.
Yes.
Is Stroud, okay, with the Houston Texans. Okay, C.J. Stroud. This kid, I can tell you, when I've seen him play in college and I see him in practice in preseason, watching him, watching his maneuvers, watching his body language, okay, how he relates to players. You know, something you just have to read into this, Jackie. He was very confident, very smooth, very controlled, very humble, and very team-oriented. And so these qualities, and he could throw the ball. And he's got good timing and a good release. Okay, he mechanically doesn't have too many faults at all. It's a lot like Joe Burrow in that regard. So I said, this is the best quarterback coming out of the draft. Jackie,
I remember you saying that.
Historically, he broke the most passing yards in one game by any rookie quarterback. He beat Andrew Luck's record. He threw for 470 yards. But the amazing thing, forget the yardage, because statistics are misleading. He took his team from behind. They needed to score a touchdown to go down the field with 49 seconds left, Jackie.
To win the game.
Did you look at his body language?
Yes.
No problem. We got this. I got this in the bag.
In fact.
As a rookie quarterback.
Vince, I listened to him in his interview, and a lot of those technical things that you just pointed out, you know, I don't pay attention to. I don't notice that. You notice those qualities in a quarterback a lot quicker than I will. But this is what I do know. After that game was over and he was addressing the press and the media, he said that this is what I live for. He said, I want the ball in my hand during the crucial downs. He said, I looked into the eyes of all the men in the huddle, and I said, let's go. We're going to go down and win the game. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm used to seeing from the best quarterbacks I ever played in with.
That's who you wanted.
That's what you want. You want that guy you want him to have more confidence than you in those critical situations. And I think he showed that. I think it made the team rally around him. And like you say, Vince, your biggest passing day was against the Chicago Bears, and you threw for 500 yards. This kid is still wet behind the ears, just coming off a college campus, and he threw for 470 yards. 470 yards, and I saw some well-placed balls coming out of his hand. So I think football fans in the future are going to have a lot of fun watching this young man play.
For young quarterbacks, Jackie, as you're an offensive lineman in the huddle, when he's calling the play, don't you get some kind of reassurance when you listen to his diction and the way he calls the play and his confident factor that he's got? Doesn't it rub off when you say, oh, okay,
yeah, it does.
I feel more comfortable.
Yes.
I feel more at ease.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I'm going to walk up to the line of scrimmage and beat the heck out of the guy in front of me.
That's exactly what I was saying, Vince. You had that. Yeah. I think Joe Namath had that.
Yeah.
I was in a huddle at the Pro Bowl with Joe Montana. He had that. It's very unique because a lot of guys, you know, they get in that huddle and the only thing they're thinking about is spitting out the information.
Right.
They're not thinking about what's going on with the psychic of the team in that huddle.
Now, do you know,
and he seems to be like you guys were thinking about.
Here's another guy, and you got to rate the quarterbacks. I can rate the quarterbacks who I think are some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But a guy by the name of Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, when he's in the huddle, when he's calling the play, do you ever notice? This. He's looking at the eyes of all the players. He's not just looking at his wristband to call the play.
Right.
He's calling the plays, looking at the players in their eye.
He knows what they're doing.
He's affirmative.
Right.
He's confident. He knows what he wants to do, and he's not saying, you better be there. He says, this is going to work. I know it's going to work. You can get open, right? Get open. And he's talking to the players as if they want to be successful. And I think it makes a big difference for quarterbacks.
You know, I'm not sure exactly, you know, how a young man acquires that.
Yeah.
But when you think about the critical position in the NFL, I played with 21 different guys at the quarterback position. And the ones who had that were the ones that I would prefer being in the huddle with. Yeah. Now, I want to ask you a question, Vince. Okay. You know, if you had to take a rate, the top, you know, 4 or 5, say 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Just, you don't have to tell me why you like them, but just
one characteristic?
Yeah, just who would those 5 guys be?
Well, Joe Burrow, because of his timing and his accuracy, he's impeccable. I mean, if I see a receiver in a position to make a play and I know the ball's going to be where it has to be, it's a touchdown. So that's Joe Burrow. Okay. Patrick Mahomes, Jackie, for his leadership, the winning nature, there's something that's intangible with this guy that just is a winning concept. I mean, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. If I'm hurt, I'll make the play. I love Patrick Mahomes, the way he approaches the game and how he plays it. The other guy, Jackie, who has a skill that I've never seen before is Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts can squat 600 pounds.
That's a lot of power.
So when they get in the tush push, he doesn't need three guys pushing him from behind. He can make it himself.
Drive
and
those legs.
runs and he makes good decisions. But I like his composure, and I like the way he's nonchalant. He is just adamant about what he's going to do. It's not a big deal. I'll just go out there and make a play.
Same, even keel.
Even keel.
That's
even
all.
keel.
Even when he got his knee falling into.
So that's
falling.
Oh yeah, but he just
got
gets
up and he just stayed.
Let me work it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the other guy is Lamar Jackson, and to me, when you saw Baltimore Ravens play, Baltimore Ravens have, I think, one of the toughest offenses to guard against, to defend. There's no way possible that you can stop the Baltimore Raven offense.
They can run the ball.
You know how many yards they rush for?
Ball. They can throw the ball, and their quarterback can run the ball.
Everything. They rushed for 298 yards, Jackie, last week. Okay, 298. And the week before, they wiped out the Detroit Lions, who are a good team. Okay, they beat Seattle. They rushed 298 yards. So Seattle only rushed the ball for like 45 yards against them. So, but what makes them so difficult is Todd Monken has designed an offense that's around the skills of his quarterback. So he has RPO, not only even the run-pass option, but run-pass option, scramble, roll. That's even more impressive. They can pocket pass. They have Mark Andrews over the middle. Now they got Odell Beckham. You can't stop this team. When they run the football, they'll run a direct run with the quarterback.
They got a lot of special things they can do, Vince, and I don't want to cut you off, but when I was coaching at Azusa Pacific University, and I coached there for 8 years, the offensive coordinator asked me one day, he says, Jackie, he said, do you ever think we'll see the RPO game in the pros? And I said to him emphatically, no, we will never see the RPO game in the pros, because the quarterbacks are the highest paid players, and nobody is going to want to jeopardize these guys' health by having them run around and having these big linebackers taking their heads off. Yeah. Well, that's not the case anymore. If you have the slightest bit of fleet of footness, you are going to be asked to do an RPO situation at some point in time. And it is you look at Lamar Jackson, there is no better, no more perfect person, talent to use the RPO game. All it does, and you're talking about how difficult it is to stop Baltimore, all it does is just made them one-dimensional, more difficult to defend. Now you don't have to just worry about, now you got to stop the running game, you got to stop the passing game, which Todd is spreading the ball out, and you got to stop a quarterback that can run for 1,000 yards against you in a season if you don't defend him. So that's what makes, in my opinion, the Baltimore Ravens so much better.
They are effective, and I'm telling you that that exchange and the way they incorporate that run, pass, play action, and roll with that combination is
unique.
It's not typically just an RPO. It's an RPO with a different design. And you notice, Jackie, that most of the comeback wins that were created by quarterbacks late in these games, where there was a run by a scramble by a quarterback for first down and more.
Right.
So today's game, because the defenses are so emphatic about trying to cover every receiver, they try to even spy the quarterback, but you can't even spy a guy like Lamar Jackson. He's too fast.
No.
So there's a definite way, a big opening to run the football sometimes, and sometimes it's called for. But again, C.J. Stroud did it without running the football. He just threw the ball.
He just threw it.
He was really good.
He just threw it.
Jackie, let me ask you this question. You asked me about quarterbacks. Let me ask you about defensive pass rushers. How would you rate the defensive pass rushers today? Who would you put at the top of the list?
Wow.
There's so many good ones out there.
Well, you're right. There's a lot of good ones. And I don't know if 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that a question like that would have been all that so prominent. Because I don't know that 15 to 20 years ago, pass rushers were as valuable to teams as they are now. We've seen the value of pass rushers and wide receivers and quarterbacks just go through the roof over here over the last 8 years or so. But when I look at pass rushers today, guys who are systematically, consistently having an impact on games, there's a few guys that just jump out at me. And they don't just jump out at me because they're good at what they're doing. They jump out at me is because I'm the type of guy that would look at these guys and say, what would I do to block him? What would I have to do to stop this guy from getting to my quarterback? And the ones that I have to think the longest on are the ones that I think are the most dangerous. For me, my list consists of these guys. At defensive end, right now, Myles Garrett has to be the top. Even though there's a guy named Daniel Hunter and over at Chicago, in Minnesota, who's leading all defensive linemen in sacks. So Myles Garrett, Daniel Hunter, who's still growing into being a good pass rusher, and then Max Crosby over at the Raiders. To me, as defensive ends, these guys can beat you with a lot of things. They're special, they're physical.
How about T.J. Watt?
T.J. Watt I got T.J. Watt in here as an edge rusher.
Oh, okay, edge.
In fact, he's my number one edge rusher with 9.5 sacks. I wonder all the time, how do I block this guy? But then right behind him is Hassan Reddick over at the Eagles. Yeah. So those are my two edge guys, edge guys. Then I got my defensive tackles. Oh, yeah. Now, my defensive tackle, my number one defensive tackle, may never change the rest of my life is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is just he's just special, and I hope people really have come to appreciate him for what all he does. But then the next guy is Chris Jones, because he's so big, he can set you up with finesse, he can power you, make you squat, jump around. I mean, he's just a unique guy. So those are my top rushers, and I always enjoy watching these guys. And as they beat offensive tackles and guards, I say, hey, beat him with this, he beat him with that. These guys are just really unique.
Jackie, before we get into some of these controversial topics in the NFL, we have to first go over, and at midseason here in the NFL, we have to rank who you think the top 10 teams are. And you and I both had talked about this a little bit. I think we may have a few teams in common here.
Yes.
So how would you rank your top? Give me your top 5 teams first, and I'll give you my top 5.
Okay.
Who do you like? Who's going to be in the Super Bowl?
All right.
Or just the top 5 best teams?
The number one team to me is Philadelphia. I'm not going to give you all the reasons why, but it starts with their offensive line and quarterback. Yeah. And then Kansas City. I love Kansas City Chiefs. I love their coach and their quarterback. I love the Baltimore Ravens at number 3. I love what Todd Munchkin has done with the quarterback and the run game over there. And then Joe Burrow in Cincinnati is number 4. San Francisco somehow, even with the young Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, I got him at number 5. They just added a Chase Young, a big-time pass rusher, which should help that team. And then
I'm in agreement. Do you know what? I'm in agreement. All those 5 in the same order.
Is that right? Okay.
You must have looked at my notes.
I never saw it. My number 6 team is Miami, even though Miami doesn't have, they've been exposed a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I like Miami at number 6, and then I like Dallas at number 7. At number 8, I like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm throwing the Detroit Lions in there at number 9, and then I'm going with Pittsburgh at number 10.
Oh. Well, you know what? My 6 to 10 teams, there's only one difference. Okay, I'm going to take the Chargers instead of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But number 6, I got Jacksonville because their defense is playing lights out.
It really is.
I mean, it's with Todd Peterson there on offense, but their defense has been impressing me. So I'm going to go with Dallas because Dallas is just one step behind Philadelphia. And who knows, in the playoffs, that could change. But I'll take Dallas next. Detroit Lions are having a great year this year. I expect them to be in the playoffs. I'll pick them at 8. Number 9, Miami Dolphins. And number 10, the Los Angeles Chargers. Get it done.
We're pretty close there, particularly out of the chute. So as we wind down over this next 8-10 weeks or so, some of this is probably going to stay in place, and we'll know for sure that we were, right on the money with these guys. Okay, Jackie, we got to get into a real controversial topic right here. Okay, what's going on in the NFL is there's a lot of penalties being called, especially roughing the quarterback penalties, roughing and targeting calls. Okay, they're very subjective. Okay, and arbitrary a lot of times. But and some of the post-game fines for these player penalties, they're asking for forgiveness and not permission, I think.
So, what's a few bucks to them? But I think that when you look at these calls, these targeting calls and these roughing the quarterbacks, a lot of them are inconsistent. I don't like what they're calling these inconsistent calls. A lot of them be determining who wins and loses these games. Look at this play right here. This play right here is a sack on Justin Herbert. That's just a guy rushing the quarterback. Jackie, do you see anything wrong with that play?
Well, according to the rule, what he did was he landed on the quarterback with all of his weight.
How's he going to get him to the ground?
Well, he landed on him with all of his weight.
Okay, that's subjective, but that's subjective because I don't see that.
Well,
I see him letting it up at the. Okay, how about this play against Josh Allen?
Here he is deemed to have struck him in the helmet with his hand.
Wait a minute.
And
he got hit in the helmet?
He never got touched.
The helmet doesn't.
He never got touched in the helmet with his hand, but the referee did. And now, the answer to these questions that we're coming up, these controversies, is to take all of these roughing situations to instant replay. And then go back to Bernardino and those guys.
It take too much time. You could talk to some of those guys, those analysts.
Absolutely. That's what their jobs are.
They contradict what the referee calls.
Now, here's another one.
Here's another play.
Now, this quarterback is giving himself up. Watch
Baker
this.
Mayfield.
You'll see he's going foot first. He's giving himself up. And then
he's going to
boom. He comes in late after the quarterback.
But that's a late intentional slide. He was going to slide, but it looks like he's going head first. And at the end, he's trying to slide.
To me, when I look at that, that's a clear indication that Baker Mayfield is giving himself up. He got up. He gave himself up.
Okay, this one is ridiculous.
Well, this is another one where he landed upon.
No, Jackie.
He landed upon the quarterback with all his weight.
No, he did not. He hit the quarterback, knocked him down,
glanced over him.
And he glanced over him. That's not landing on the quarterback.
That's the way it was interpreted, Vince.
Yeah.
They don't interpret him as hitting with his helmet because you don't see him spearing the guy.
We need to do something about these calls.
Is you see his weight coming down on the quarterback as he falls towards the sideline.
But Jackie, these plays can determine the outcome of a game.
Yeah.
There's so many referee calls that are determining what's happened, the outcome of this game, and people don't want that.
I
they want
agree.
the game to be played fair.
I agree.
And okay, here's another play. The last Hail Mary play. Every ball that's thrown and there's a crowd around the ball, they can throw a flag and call it pass interference, and the game will not end on a defensive penalty.
Every time.
The last play of a game, in my mind, no flag. No flag at all. There's no penalty. Anything goes.
Anything goes.
The last play of the game. Because it's the way it's going to be. Yeah. I mean, if the guy catches the ball in the end zone, it's a touchdown.
Well, the problem with that is, suppose there's a guy that's clearly in a position where he can jump up and get the ball.
Yeah.
Clearly in a position to do that. And a defender comes and snatches him to the ground or snatches him off his course.
Too bad.
That particular
Too bad, man.
That's
Too
clearly
bad.
interference. Clearly interference.
You got one play in the whole game to do it. You know what? And they probably start doing that more often. Maybe they ought to do that more. Maybe the fans will enjoy it more.
Yeah, maybe. But one of the things for sure is, the quarterback is the most valuable position on the team. You have fewer of those guys than you have any other position.
I agree.
And you can't afford to have, $5, $15 million a year guys walking around on injury reserve. So
Jackie, let me ask you a question.
Let me finish. I think the answer to the problem that we're seeing here with all these calls that are, we were talking to Mark, our producer, and he's saying, hey, I'm out of $800 to go and get seats to a game. I'm out of another $200 to go and eat hot dogs there, and I'm gonna spend $1,000.
They don't want to see the outcome determined by some call by a referee.
Some referee making a call. Well, the thing that Mark and you and me and all of us have to understand is the quarterback is the valuable guy. That the people are coming to see the quarterback throw the ball. They're not coming to see him racked in pain and carried to the sideline, and then not have somebody come off and play as well as him from the sideline. So you only got one or two good quarterbacks, so you got to institute rules that's going to keep them safe, as safe as possible.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, when we played, they didn't have any of these rules.
No, they didn't.
Enacted. Okay, so there was no roughing the quarterback the way they call him today.
No, there wasn't.
Was there more injuries back then? No. We didn't get injured. Nobody got injured. Maybe it's the field surface we're playing.
Yeah, but the other thing too is we did not have a salary cap, so we didn't have. And you were not making $32 million.
No, I know.
So if you had gotten hurt back then making what you made, they could have brought in 20 guys to replace you. But do you think they're going to bring in 20 guys to replace $107 million a year?
No, I understand it. Well, but maybe they shouldn't guarantee these contracts.
Well, no, that's a part of the business now. It's a part of the business. We just got to accept it. It's fair. It's more fair now that the players are being paid the way they are than it was when we were playing. So we just got to deal with the realities. The reality is the salary cap allows you to spend so much money. A big chunk of that is going to go to the quarterback. He's got to get his money, and you have got to be smart about with the rules that protects this quarterback, with the people that you invest around him. You got to be smart about protecting him all the time. Otherwise, he can throw your whole cap situation, off kilter.
But the fans like other players besides quarterbacks, Jackie.
Yeah,
they like receivers too.
I know.
And no, we have a really critical need for female fans in the NFL. But you know what? We're an amazing relevance of Taylor Swift that's happening right now, Jackie. Now, hey, wait a minute now. Do you think? I mean, what has she done for the revolution of this game? I mean, how many more female fans are actually attracted to go watch the Chiefs play and watch Taylor Swift be at the event?
Right. Well, we do know that the standard American fan to the game of football is male. And the female portion, it's growing. There's no doubt about it. But we also know that young people love Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. And many people did not know that Taylor Swift was dating Travis
Kelce.
And once that broke, all of a sudden the young girls and the teenagers and everybody was excited.
Are you a Swiftie?
I wouldn't say I'm a Swiftie. I'm impressed with the success she's had.
My granddaughter, Sophia Francesca, is a Swiftie.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, because she likes that song, You Belong With Me.
Oh.
And I was listening to that. I was playing. You play the guitar a little bit, Jack. We can play that, man. It's a nice song. It's
was
a great
it really?
song. Yeah.
Well,
listen to it sometime. I'm becoming a Swiftie myself.
Are you really?
Yeah,
well, you're
like
going to become a Swiftie. I can see. I'm probably more in tune with her now since I see her involvement with the game, and I think it's fantastic. And I know the NFL has got to be loving it. I know the people in Kansas City got to be loving it. But like you say, the numbers don't lie. Young girls and women from all over the country are falling in love with Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs and Travis because of their relationship. It's kind of cool to watch, isn't it?
It is cool.
It is kind of cool.
It's cool, man. I'm telling you what. Well, hey, you know what? Lucky for Travis because he's got a really nice gal there, I think.
Yeah, she seems like a nice person.
She seems really nice, and it's really pleasant, and I like her music.
And Vince, I heard a story about the money that she made in her recent tour.
Yes.
And I heard about the amount of money that she gave to people, that she gave away to the people that worked with her and supported her. And she's just unbelievably generous.
Right.
Unbelievably generous person.
It's nice to see somebody in the limelight like that who doesn't care about themselves, that cares more about other people than themselves.
Right.
And you want to be able to help other people, and I think that's what life's all about.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Let's get on over to our game picks here.
All right, let's go. Let's close out with the game picks.
We got a couple of games here that are interesting to me, and I've been kind of curious as to what you would think about these games. Let's start off by talking about.
I'm better than you so far right now in our picks of the week. So I got you by a couple games.
Yeah, that's because you bet most of the week. You've been betting before it was illegal. Anyway, Vince. Right, Cleveland at Baltimore. Who do you like? Baltimore -7.
Look, Cleveland's a good team, both in the AFC North. Okay, but I told you there's nobody that can guard and defend that offense.
Three-dimensional.
If Baltimore can play defense against Deshaun Watson,
and they will.
They win this game, and I predict they're going to win this.
Okay,
game.
I agree with you. I'm going with Todd Monken and what he's doing with the Baltimore Ravens.
Right.
So we both agreement there. Now, you got San Francisco at Jacksonville. At Jacksonville, they just added the big pass rusher on the other side. It seems like, Jacksonville's going in the right direction, Vince.
No, this is interesting because
that's a tough game.
Both these teams had the bye.
Yeah.
So Kyle Shanahan and Doug Peterson, now they're game planning like crazy.
You give them a bye. Either one of those guys, you give them a bye.
But I'm going to go with the 49ers to bounce back, Jackie. I think They have more experience. I think they have more gamers. And, it really going to boil down to, is Deebo Samuel going to be able to play?
Deebo.
Is Trent Williams? Now, you like Trent Williams.
I love Trent Williams.
Now, they've been without those two players, and that's really hurt this team. So if they're ready to play in this extra week they have off, I'm staying with San Francisco.
Okay, I'm inclined to agree with you, Vince, but for whatever reason, I'm going with the coach at Jacksonville. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
All right, the Green Bay Packers at Pittsburgh.
Well, Green Bay had the win against the Rams this past week. Pittsburgh also won the game. I like Pittsburgh in this game at home. They're at Pittsburgh, so I'm
going with Pittsburgh. I agree.
Steelers.
I agree with you. I haven't seen enough of love in Green Bay Packers at this point in time to conclude that they could beat the gritty.
And he's going to take his gloves off this week.
They could beat this gritty Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Yeah.
All right, Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. I'm going to pick that one first. I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers.
I thought you were going to say the Detroit Lions.
I think Brandon Staley's going to get this group headed in the right direction. And, with Eckler, he's going to make plays. I think, I like the Chargers.
The Lions had the week off to prepare for this game. I think they're coming west. But you know what? Despite all of that, and despite you think that the Chargers are in a better position, I'm going to stick with the Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers to win at home.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take them.
That sounds good. Now we got to win. We got Houston and Cincinnati. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. He's just looking way too good, and in spite of the fact that his finger was bleeding on his hand there.
Yeah, he's got Higgins. He's got Boyd. He's got
a running back.
Chase.
He's got
Mixon. Hey, Jackie, all those guys are still in place for this quarterback. Now, is that just happened by chance, or is that something
that's by design?
Design.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then they picked up their big offensive tackle, Brown, from the Chiefs. He's helping them along. This is
Orlando
a team that's
Brown.
They're getting
Zeus
better.
His dad's name was Zeus. Orlando Brown Sr. He played with the Baltimore Ravens.
Do you see this team getting better each week? I do, and I think they're going to win this game against Houston.
All right, last one, New Orleans Saints at the Minnesota Vikings. Vince, for me, I think Dobbs is going to be a magical one that's going to wave its way over that area back there in Minnesota this season, and it's going to be, it may put Joshua Dobbs in a position to supplant Kirk Cousins down the road. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings and Josh Dobbs after one full week's work.
I'm going to stay with Minnesota, too. I like, despite the number 15 is the number I wore, I love that number, but I think I see Joshua Dobbs in number 9. I don't know if they're going to change his jersey, but he's the capable one that's going to bring, and I like them actually more with Dobbs at quarterback than they do Kirk Cousins.
How about that?
So, hey, how about that one? So, anyway, I think they have a better chance, and I'm going to stick with the Minnesota Vikings.
All right.
Well, Jackie, I hope everybody agrees with us, because if you do, we'll all have some fun together. So until next time, Jackie, stay on point.